After the advance of the internet, then there was slow decline in letters and mails. Now the number of collectors have reduced, and then stamp collecting is more of a niche hobby instead of a mass hobby that it used to be. In the early 80s, every schoolboy, more or less they have a stamp collection, a stamp book. They come across stamps, and it's very easy to get letters in those days. And I still remember, at my market in my neighborhood, one Indian old man would actually come by every, on a Saturday or Sunday. He would set up a store and basically open a suitcase and pick your stamps, So at 10 cents each or 5 cents each. So anyway, eventually I stumbled upon a stamp club, and then I was exposed to something called postal history. So in postal history, we study things like the postmark. So they reflect the post offices that were open. So for example, here you have Steel Road, here you have got Katong, So all different offices that were open, in those days. This is Pulau Bukom. So it's actually a very, very important one because it's the only offshore post office in Singapore. Yeah, 1960 it opened, all the way until 1990, I think, about 30 years. Now, of course, you talk about the slogans. So here are some of the slogans that you have. Right? So you can see this. So in the 60s and the 70s, you got this Singapore Grand Prix, and this is before the F1. In the mid-70s, when inflation was very, very high, and people were complaining about food prices being very expensive, eat frozen fish. In those days, in the 1970s, it was not the norm. What's unique about this? People will never know, you see. But this is actually what is known, the black border is actually what is known as a mourning cover. This was actually, you can see here, this is the monogram of King George VI. And this is actually a mourning cover for the passing of King George VI, because you look at the date, it's 23rd of February 1952. This is 6 days after the king had passed on. It wasn't very expensive, but yeah, it was actually a chance purchase. So sometimes you strike Toto, so to say. Stamp collecting is not about competing against anybody else, but it's just to be a better collector today than you were yesterday. It is actually much of a slow appreciation which trains you to be patient in assembling the collection bit by bit by bit. And nowadays, people want to have instant gratification now. The attention span is, of course, a lot shorter. So that is probably one of the reasons why the younger people are not so keen.
It used to know as king of hobby of king. There are not so many young collectors like you. Not so many.
I'm Sim Jen Lun. I'm 25 years old, and this is my stamp collection. I've been collecting stamps since 2015, and I have more than 4,000 stamps across more than 10 albums at home.
Let's see, China, this one Japan one, this one America. I felt quite proud that I managed to get one of the limited edition stamps for the Trump-Kim Summit when it took place in Singapore. I remember I had to rush from Nanyang Poly all the way to Singapore Centre just to queue up to buy this commemorative stamp. In secondary 2, we had to do a history project work using as much as stamps as possible and little amount of words. It's because at the time there was a Singapore International Stamp Exhibition and all the schools were taking part in this stamp competition. So since then I got an interest in stamps because I came to learn that stamps have a lot more significance. It tells a history and how a country functions. Hong Kong, this one. At the start, I started collecting generally, but as time goes on, I started collecting more and more East Asian side of country stamps. But most importantly, sometimes I collect military themed stamps. So North Korea is definitely one of my favorites because they tend to feature a lot of their military vehicles and all the soldiers It shows the idea that North Korea really pride itself with the modernization of its military. Some of the stamps they featured also what their culture and how they portray themselves as a country. I think that gives me a lot of intrigue to know more about this country that most people can't even go.
How did you acquire all these North Korean stamps?
I went to their North Korean stamp company website and also I also went to a store in Golden Mile. So I'm in the stamp store located at Peninsula Plaza that I come to every once a month. 这个 Victoria's J8 啊，这个 J8 有没有啊？ My budget is usually $50 or so. Over my budget really. So these are those stamps that I really want one day. These stamps are issued during the Cultural Revolution when China was still not open up yet. And it features the poems that was written by Mao Zedong.
The whole collection of stamps issued during the revolution time is at the moment around 10,000.
I was stunned. I was like, I know these are valuable, but I didn't know it was that valuable. When I tell others that I have a stamp collection or I collect stamps, usually people are quite surprised because it's definitely more of a old person hobby.
Welcome to the April meeting. So today is a show and tell. Before we begin, can I just have an indication of how many people are sharing?
At the start, I felt part of the community, but yet also feel like there's still this sort of divide because of the age gap. Now I'm quite comfortable with the old folks because not only do they share their experience, but also they share how they collect their stamps. And then that's when you realize that these people are very experienced. They know the stamps history from the back of their mind. So it makes me want to strive to become like them as I go old and have these kind of collections.
So today's stamp series, we are looking at the Skyrise Greenery stamps. So these stamps, don't you think they are a bit different?
Yes,
A
of
little
course.
more unique? Yeah, you know the usual stamps we see, what kind of shape are they?
Square or rectangle?
Back in 2025, SingPost wanted to launch a young philately program in schools. We were approached to see whether we are interested, and we decided to partner SingPost. When we invite the primary 3 students to go on board this CCA, we do have a very positive response. Yeah. I have been studying stamps for a long time. I started like your age.
Oh,
Yes,
what year?
very long time ago. Our focus is on philately, which is the study of stamps. Yeah, not so much on the collecting stamps. Actually, there are various themes that are very applicable to children as they go through their schooling. Right? The emphasis on nature, conservation, science, architecture. And at the same time, when children are trained to actually study the details in STEM, we're actually teaching them life skills. Then they can, on their own, explore and be self-directed in their learning. Do you know what is this?
Oh, penny black.
Okay, so does it have a country name?
No.
Okay, no, right. But we always identify a British stamp, right, by the head of the Queen or the King that we see on the stamp.
The texture is quite.
You can't feel the texture actually, but you.
Yeah, but I feel
It's very,
like
very small, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's only a
so
small,
small.
small piece of paper.
I don't think I can pick it up with a tweezer.
They ask me so many questions, and that's what we really hope to see in the children today.
I got 2 China stamps and 1 horse stamp. I asked my mother and father for an album, but they say no. I can't get an album.
Oh, so do you seriously want an album?
Yes.
What for?
Huh?
What for?
To put.
To put your 3 stamps inside?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good start. Yeah.